In this video, we're going to be looking at a new command called Repopulate Tiles. It was added in version 0.52.12. This command lets you change the POI that are on tiles on a map that you've already made. In most cases, the best way to do this is to create your map and then import it back into Teragon and use the Repopulate Tiles command. You can use this on any map that's been made, including the pre-gen maps that came with 7 Days to Die. It does not work, however, with the Navigaine map, because the water map on that does not import properly. The best way to use this command is to use the World Previewer preset. This preset lets you load in whatever map you want that's already been created to preview what it looks like. In this case, I've got pre-gen 08K02 loaded. So when I go in here and run the previewer, I'm going to see the map. If I scroll in here, and let's say I want to change POI on just this one tile. If you look here, I've got House Old Modular 03, House Old Bungalow 03, House Old Bungalow 07, and Apartments 05 for just these four. So we'll use those four as an example to see how it's working. We can also take a look here and see Rural Filler 15 and Rural Filler 06 are the two on here to see that those will not change when I'm only going to work on this tile. We go back over here to Expert, and now I'm going to put in the new command, Repopulate Tiles. This command is best run individually. If you're not sure how to run commands individually or don't know why you would want to, there is a tutorial video that explains that. Because we're going to run this individually, it doesn't matter where we're going to put this in the preset. So we'll just leave it at the top. Biome map name can be left blank unless you want the POI to only appear within the biome that they are set to appear in. If you do want them based on biome and they have a biome attached to them, then you would need to put in the biome map name, or else it will ignore the biome. Seed will let you change the seed, so each time you run this with a different seed, you can get a different set of POI appearing. Position is what we're going to look at now. This is used for changing a specific tile or a specific town. If you're changing all of the POI on the map, then the position can be ignored. So we're going to go back over here. Since this is a tile that we want to use, we're going to put the mouse somewhere on that tile. It doesn't matter where. We're going to hold Control C to copy. We're going to go back over to the Expert tab and click on Position. And we're going to Control V to paste. As you can see, we now have coordinates in there for where that tile is located. We're going to leave selection mode at tile at position. This means it will only change the POI on that tile at that location. For now, we're going to ignore the rest of this, and we're just going to click Run here. Don't do it here. That'll rerun your whole preset. Just click Run here to run that command. As you can see, that went really fast because we're only doing one tile. We're then going to go back over and click on Update Preview. We're going to run that individually. That'll take a minute to update. Now that that's done, we're going to go back over to 2D Preview. And as you can see, we now have Country Junkyard 01, Park 01, Remnant Burt 10, Remnant Burt 02. So those have been changed. And we still have Rural Filler 15 and Rural Filler 06 here. So it's only changed the POI and parts on this one tile. Everything else on the map has stayed the same. The next option we're going to look at on Repopulate Tiles is we're going to change the selection mode to Town at Position. This will change the POI in the entire town without changing the POI anywhere else on the map. You're going to click on Run. This takes a little bit longer, but still not too bad. We're going to go back to Update Preview, click Run there. Now that that's done, we're going to go back to 2D Preview. And you can see now we have lot filler 15 still here, but we now have remnant farm 01 here. And there is now also a rural intersection 02. Because we did not change the seed, we still have the same POI on this tile, country junkyard 01, park 01, remnant burnt 10, and remnant burnt 02. So this tile hasn't changed because we already changed it with that seed. But every other POI on this town will have changed. Any POI on any other towns will be the same as they were before. If we want to change the seed, each of these will change, including this original tile that we had already changed. The next thing we're going to look at is back under Repopulate Tiles. We're going to choose All Tiles. When choosing All Tiles, position is ignored, and every tile on the map will have new POI placed on it. This does not impact any wilderness or region POI. So these POI are on the map like this and that are not on tiles will not change. So first we're going to just look at a few POI on this tile. Farm 14, Utility Substation 02, Lot Rural Filler 05, and Barn 03. And we already know what's on these tiles. So now we have it on all tiles. I'm going to change the seed to just something random so that even the tiles we've already changed will change so that we can see that. We're going to hit run, and this will take longer because it is changing all of the tiles. Now that that is done, we're going to go back to update preview and click run on that. Now, if you try this yourself, you will see that Repopulate Tiles with all tiles does take a minute or two to complete. I skipped that in the video just to make it faster for you. But be prepared that it does take some time and you just have to wait for it to finish. All right, now that that is done, we go back to 2D preview, scroll in. You can see on here we now have Remnant House 01, Burnt 10, Junkyard 01, Bungalow 06, got Farm 01, Rural Filler 1, Intersection 02, Intersection 02. So you can see these tiles have changed. We can go back up here as well. Farm 14, Barn 3, Remnant Farm 2, Farm 08. Plus we now have a part on here for Farm 60 Field. So you can see tiles around the map have changed. If you compare this part of the video to an earlier part, you also see some of the colors on these POI have changed. The colors represent what tier they are from 0 up to tier 5. So even if you don't know the names of the different POI on there, you can see that it has changed just based on the colors, and even in some cases adding or removing some POI from the tile. Go back over to the Expert tab and look back at Repopulate Tiles. And now we have a bunch of options to choose from. This first option, the permissive size check for wishlist POIs, normally should be left blank. What will happen is that if you enable this, it's possible for POI that are in your wish list to appear on locations that are the wrong size. So if you have a POI in your wish list that's size 25 by 25, it's possible that it could appear on a space that's for a 100 by 100 POI or some other size POI. This does let you get those POI placed more easily without worrying about the size. However, it will look really weird when it's placed on a spot that's designed for a larger POI. So in most cases, leave that unchecked. Your POI wish list is a list of POI that you want to appear on the map whenever possible. This is similar to using the priority tag in your POI property list, but it's specific to this command, and it's used a little bit differently, which you can see if you read the help text on that. Basically, if I want something to appear here, let's just say it's this one, Farm 14. I can add that to here. I could add other ones as well with a comma. And let's see, let's say Barn 03. And you just do it like that. You can put as many as you want here, and it will try to place those before placing any other POI. This can help you if you're trying to get specific POI on your map. In addition to having things on the wish list, you also have all these checkboxes to choose from. Usually POI are placed using specific restrictions. These restrictions are what you see here, and normally you would have these enabled so that the POI gets placed in specific locations based on those restrictions. The first three, based on game version, almost always should be left enabled. If you try using something for a different game version, that POI may not be available in the game version that you're trying to make the map for. So you may not have that POI even though you have it listed in your wish list and you disable these. So in most cases, you want to leave those enabled. The rest of these are entirely up to you. The first option, use disabled tag. If you have a POI in your POI property list that is marked as disabled so that you don't get it in your map, you can uncheck this, and it's possible that it could be placed on the tile when you do repopulate tiles. The next option, use town type restriction. If you set a POI to only appear in a certain town type, such as only in regular town or only in Old West town, by unchecking this, it will allow it to appear in any town type. Elevation restriction should normally be left enabled. That is used to prevent a POI from being placed either too low or too high. If a POI is placed too low, you may chop off the underground parts of the POI. And if it's placed too high, you may chop off the top parts of the POI. The elevation restriction is specific to keep POI from being placed too high or too low based on the height of the POI, either above or below ground. So normally you want that to be checked. The next two options, use distance to town border or distance to world border. If you have a POI set to only appear within a certain distance from either the town border or the world border, but you want it to appear anywhere, when you use this command, you can disable those. The next option, distance to duplicate. That applies both to a duplicate POI, so the same POI, or a POI of the same theme. Normally you want a certain distance between the duplicates or POI of the same theme, so you're not getting a whole bunch of the same thing grouped together on your map. But if you want to have a chance to place a specific POI, even though there's others nearby, you can disable this. A good use of this is if you're trying to get an extra trader into a town and you don't care that there's other traders nearby. You can disable this, add the trader to your POI wish list, and it will get placed there even if there are traders that are nearby. The next two options, use max spawn count and use max spawn count per town. If you have set a POI to only spawn a maximum number of times on the map entirely or on a specific town, and you want to still be able to spawn it here using this command, you can disable either of those options. Next, we have biome restriction. If a POI is set to only appear in a certain biome, you can disable this, allowing it to appear regardless of the biome that it's set for. Remember that if you want the biome restriction to work at all, you have to have the biome name entered here. Normally that is going to be my biome map. And the last option, use priority. If your POI is set to use priority in order to try to get placed more often, you can disable this if you don't want it to do that when you're doing this repopulate tiles. For example, if you've had priority on a specific POI, and now when you do repopulate tiles, you don't want to get that POI added immediately, and you want it to be more random, having that disabled can be a good option. You can use whatever combination of these that you want. These apply to all POI. Changing these settings will make it possible for those to appear that may not be able to appear based on the restrictions that you're changing. So why would you want to use repopulate tiles? What's the point of it? One main reason is if you have a map that you really like and you want to play that again but not have the POI in the same locations, you can repopulate all the tiles on your map. Town locations, terrain, and wilderness POI will all be in the same locations and look the same, but the POI within the towns will be different, which will make it possible to play a game that's on a map you like without having to see the same POI in the same places. Another reason you might use this is if you downloaded a POI pack after making the map and you want to add those POI to the map, you can then repopulate tiles with those POI, and that will let you have additional POI that you didn't have originally when you made the map. This also applies to updates to the game that add new POI. You can also repopulate with those new POI. Keep in mind that just like with any other preset that you use, you're going to want to make an add source path that points to where those POI are if you are adding additional POI packs. Another reason you might do this is if you're trying to get a specific POI on your map. If you've made a map that doesn't have a specific POI, for example, Factory 02 that only appears on the industrial cap tile and is therefore harder to get on your map, you can select a position for one of those cap tiles, add Factory 02 to your POI wish list, and then run this command, and whatever POI is in that spot will more than likely get swapped out for the Factory 02. This is a good way to swap out specific POI for new ones, especially by 100 by 100 POI. Smaller POI are more challenging in that there's more spots on a tile with that size. So you are going to swap out all the POI on that tile. So it's less targeted than what it would be for a 100 by 100, but it still works. You may find there's other reasons that you want to use this command as well. It is a very versatile command and does let you change up the POI on your map even after you've already made a map. And as I've said, you can also use this on the pre-gen maps if you want something different than what they gave you when they made the pre-gen maps. If you have any questions about this command or about Teragon in general, you can ask on the chat and help channel on Teragon's Discord, and someone will be able to help you.